Welcome aboard the cruising show here on Northern Viking Explorer. If you're new here, my name is Ken. This is my wife, Andrea. And today we're going to be sharing with you how to choose the right cruise for you. So that's what we're going to be chatting about today. You can watch us here on YouTube. You can watch us here on Facebook, or you can listen to us on your favorite podcasting platform. You can go to thecruisingshow.com. That'll take you over to our website. And yeah, we love doing this and talking about cruising. If you are watching already, leave a note in the comments where you're watching from. We've got a few notes already up there. Andrea?
Well, we love to talk cruising, as you know, so we're so glad that you joined us. And, you know, we really want to talk about how do you choose the right cruise for you? Because at first it can seem like there's so many choices, but when you get down to it, is there really? And how do you know which one?
Sometimes there's not as many as you think.
Sometimes your options are not as great as you might believe.
Yeah, no, for sure. We've already got some people joining in the chat here. Some recognizable names. I see Apelia. I struggle to say that. Apelia. And I see Apelia's from, where did I see this here? Las Vegas. And we've got Mike. Mike is from Palm Springs. Love visiting Palm Springs. They've got the Marilyn Monroe statue there, the big Marilyn Monroe statue. Nabor, Santa Barbara. Carl's joining us. Welcome, Carl. You were recently on a cruise, I see. Carl from Tennessee. And I believe Apelia, if I remember, is either been on the Panorama or going on the Panorama as well. So David, hey, welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us. So, well, why don't we kind of dive into it? I know you had wanted to kind of talk about
our favorite thing. Yes, our favorite part of planning our cruise is the budget. Don't we all love talking about the budget? I'm kind of joking here, but this is a really, I don't want to say a limiting factor, but it is definitely a factor that will influence potentially how you choose your cruise. There's a lot to consider when you're booking your cruise. We talked about this in length on a previous session here, but there's things you need to consider. Like obviously there's your posted cruise fare that you'll see. You have your tax and port fees. You have gratuities.
Yeah. Any
excursions you want to do. Like let's say like Alaska, excursions are really expensive.
Yes.
And then do you have to fly anywhere? So look at your whole budget.
Did you mention drink packages, specialty dining, internet, all that kind of stuff?
No.
No, because that can add up as well. I see some people commenting they pay more for their drink package than their cruise. Are you going to be gambling? Do you have a budget for that? There is a lot. Are you planning on doing any of the specialty entertainment on board? Some of the shows potentially on some of the lines you do pay for, but activities like roller coasters or things like that. So there's a lot to include in your budget. So before you can actually figure out what you need to do there, you need to set a budget. And of course, everyone's got a different budget. It could be quite small if you're doing a weekend cruise, but it could be a lot if you're doing a world cruise. So there's definitely a lot to consider there.
The big quick thing that I think most people can look at though is the base cruise fare. And then if you're looking at flights, those are two big things that might differ between different cruise choices.
Yeah. And Team Carl there says casino with the winky face. And if you're headed to the casino, well, maybe your budget, maybe
that might make it better, right, Carl? Did it make it cheaper?
Well, for some people, it does make it cheaper.
Well, we've talked to a lot of people that are just paying their port fees and gratuities thanks to their gambling.
If you are big into the casinos, some people don't pay for their cruises other than the port fees and gratuities. But then you're in the casino.
I caution though, just because you gamble, don't expect that you're going to get a free cruise. So
no,
that's not what we're saying. We're just saying there are people out there that definitely.
Yeah, but maybe you won big on your last cruise, which makes your budget better this cruise.
Maybe.
So there's definitely, and we did a whole episode. I think you already mentioned this about budgeting for a cruise or what the true cost of cruising is, and you can go back a few episodes and watch that. But it definitely does come into play. So that would be the first thing to set your budget. And then the second thing that we really
limiting
is time.
Time, yeah. Like when and how long can you go on vacation for? Or do you want to go on vacation for? Because some of us like me, I work for the school district, so I have to work within the school calendar. So we're looking at specific times of the year, mainly spring break and summer vacation. We don't usually travel over the Christmas holiday. It's just too complicated.
Yeah.
But
we spend a lot of time with family over Christmas, so it's hard to get away. And, you know, especially not all our families in town, so we're trying to do both ends of that. But
well, and I'm even looking, so I get 2 weeks off for spring break, but if I'm looking at a cruise that leaves on a Saturday and I work till 3, it's pretty tight to try and catch a flight down. It's potentially doable, but too high stress for me. So yeah, I'm actually usually looking down to one specific week or a few days.
Yeah. No, it would be, well, we live about 5 hours from Vancouver, so the travel there is a lot. We can fly out of town here, but there's lots of connections. So it can get tricky with time.
Yeah.
So some of these, I think we already mentioned this. Yeah. So spring break, Christmas.
And some people want to go on Christmas. So, I mean, that's an amazing time if you can make it happen.
For sure. Summer, if you can travel all summer, like you can, that's a timing. If you can travel during shoulder seasons, that can definitely help with the budgeting.
Absolutely.
You've mentioned school calendars. Yeah. Maybe you're retired and you can travel any time of the year. So
that's lovely.
That sounds great. So Carl's going on a 10-day on the Miracle to Alaska in 16 days, and they paid $100 per person plus port fees and taxes and gratuities. I'm just laughing because he's saying he spends a lot in the casino, and for sure to get that kind of a deal, you'd be spending a lot in the casino. I know you'd already mentioned this to me that you're heading on this ship a few weeks ago there. So enjoy that because that's coming up soon. We're headed to Alaska actually twice this summer, and then we're heading back to Mexico. So it's going to be an awesome, busy summer for us.
Carl, you'll have to let us know though how you enjoy your cruise. Sounds lovely.
Actually, Carl, to be honest, we looked up your cruise to see if we'd be in any of the ports at the same time because we did want to meet you. So, yeah. But unfortunately, we're a few days off. So, yeah.
Close.
Yeah. So the Carnival Miracle, have an awesome time on that.
Wow. Yeah.
So continuing with timing, lengths of cruises as well. This is something to consider. So are you just looking for a weekend getaway? I know there's a lot of that. You'll see kind of 3-4 day cruises out of the Caribbean to like the Bahamas or
Catalina
Island out of LA. You'll see kind of shorter cruises. Are you just kind of looking for that 3-4 day, 2-3 day kind of party getaway? Are you looking for a longer holiday? Carl said his was 10 days there, but there's I think 7 day would be
in 16 days, he goes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I was gonna say you went 16 days, Alaska. 10 days.
10 days. But there's a lot of 7 days is common. 6-7 days, those are quite common. And then there's longer, 2 weeks plus, or world cruises, or maybe you're going to Hawaii, that sort of thing, continuing on to Australia. So you can take a lot of time. So going back to budget, I think a lot of it comes back to budget. What's the length and what's the amount of time you can give to that,
and the purpose of your vacation. Like if you're just going with your friends for the weekend, a 3-day, 4-day sounds like a lot of fun. I think it also influences the atmosphere a bit. I think people that go on a 3-4 day really want to like party and have a lot of fun, whereas you're going on a long extended cruise, I think the mood would be a little bit different.
Yeah And I think we'll get into this in a moment, but just what the mood is, what ports are you visiting, that sort of thing. It really does, maybe if you're going for a party, you can only afford to party for 3 days versus a few months. So that's something to think about as well.
Yeah.
How many days can you afford to be in the casino? So there you go, Carl. You can afford there for 10 days. Carl's saying if you fly or have to fly or have a long drive, a Sunday to Sunday cruise can be very advantageous. And that's what we found as well. With you in the school district, if you were going on spring break, we need that Saturday to get to the port. So that's definitely something to think about as well.
The only problem is making sure that your flights don't get canceled going home too.
Yeah, that can be a problem as well. So
we've had that once.
But that's, I mean, that can happen with anything. You don't want to.
I was more worried about missing the cruise, though.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it is advised to at least travel the day before. We try to go 2 days before our cruise, at least, to the area. So we hear about a lot of people missing their cruises. We're on a lot of the forums, and it's actually quite sad how many people miss their cruises, especially the ones who fly in on the same day. And even if it might not be that far, but you're getting
traffic, accidents,
and your flight's delayed by a few hours, or your plane breaks down. It's definitely worth coming in at least a day before.
And talking about length of cruise, if you have never cruised before, I would not book a repositioning cruise or like a really long cruise. I would recommend, like, we started with a 7-day cruise and we really, really enjoyed that. But, you know, a 10, 14-day cruise for the first time cruising, I think that might be too big of a risk in case it's not your thing.
Well, I've talked to a lot of people and it's not their thing. They've tried a cruise and they hated it, or they just felt stuck on a ship, whereas we love it.
We love it.
So I think for everyone it's different. So yeah, keep that in mind. If you're taking a first time cruise, maybe don't travel across the world and save up for 5 years. I would try something closer to home, more budget friendly, because you might not like it. It's not for everyone, but
we love it.
A lot of people, it's once you've cruised, you won't go back to other types of travel. So yeah, try it out and go that way. Let's jump over to the itinerary. So that was kind of our next topic. So in choosing your cruise, itinerary can be extremely important.
Yeah. This is, and we have gone, I don't want to say around and around, but for a long time, you wanted to go to Alaska. And my idea of a holiday is on a beach in the warm weather. So like we're talking like glaciers, ice, and hot sunny beaches. So
well, I mean, we've gone on quite a few more cruises now, but before we were more avid cruisers, you're trying to decide what type of holiday you want, whether you want cold or warm. So there's a lot of warm cruises.
Yes. and I love all cruises, and thankfully I enjoyed our Alaska cruise a lot, and more than I expected. But you really have to look about like what kind of holiday are you looking for. So there are lots of warm cruises. Yeah,
no, for sure. So you've got all the Caribbean cruises, Eastern, Western Caribbean, where you're going to find all the beaches, Mexico, down the Pacific coast. So the kind of Cabo, Mazatlan, Puerto Vallarta cruises, Bermuda, Mediterranean. We haven't done that yet.
No.
One day.
Or Hawaii. I'd love to do Hawaii.
Yeah. So those are kind of, I mean, I'm sure there's definitely more, but those are some of the main warm cruise destinations. And then you've got the cold cruise destinations, your Alaskas, Northern Europe. You've got, and I don't even want to say they're cold, but they're not beach type. Yeah. So like there's the Asian cruises.
I think Asian would be warm though.
Yeah, no, that's true. It depends what part of Asia.
True.
I mean, they're not Caribbean.
No, yeah.
So, but yeah, you're right. Depending on the part of Asia, the East Coast cruises, the ones that kind of go north into Eastern Canada or up from Boston, up the coast there. And again, they're not the Caribbean cruises, but they're definitely on the cooler side. They can be. And continuing on, there's just so many different itineraries to choose from. And there's also repositioning cruises.
Yes, which I would like to do. I actually think it would be fun to go to Europe on a repositioning cruise. That, that's part of the itinerary too, is the sea days and the number of sea days. Like, I find sea days relaxing. I love going to ports and exploring places and seeing new things, but I also enjoy the freedom of the downtime that you get from being at sea. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
It's like permission just to relax, which is nice.
But as we kind of already brought up, if you haven't cruised before, those sea days, especially on a repositioning cruise, could be potentially quite wavy. And if you don't like cruising, you might be kind of feeling stuck on the ship. So definitely,
something to consider.
Yeah. And the type of seas as well.
Yeah.
I know you have.
But, some people are really prone to seasickness too.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really interesting when we went on the Inside Passage to Alaska. I don't want to promise that everybody will have this because they don't. We couldn't even feel the ship moving.
Mm-hmm.
The seas were so calm. The water was like glass for a lot of the cruise.
Part of that was the ship we were on too.
Yes.
I think of all the ships we've been on, the Discovery Princess it was so quiet. We would be sitting at dinner, eating dinner, and then we didn't even realize the ship had left dock.
No, you couldn't feel the engines turn on.
It was really quiet.
Usually in the dining room, you can kind of feel the little vibrations.
Mm-hmm. Your spoon might be dinking on the plate.
There was no hint that we were moving at all. So
yeah. So types of seas, calmer, rougher, and it kind of goes with the itinerary and time of year as well. So
hurricane season.
Maybe
check into that if you're a little nervous.
Yeah. Well, we have a family member who was on a cruise where people were rolling out of bed on the cruise because the seas were so rough.
They actually said if you would like to get off in port, when they finally made it to port, they said we'll help make arrangements so that you can leave.
Yeah. So quite a few people got off the ship.
I haven't heard of that recently. That was that's a good over 10 years ago. But
but I mean, that sort of thing happens. And as the ships as there's more larger ships, they cope with the waves better, I would say.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so there's a lot to think about when it comes to the itinerary and time of year. So there's quite a bit there. Carl seems to agree with you on what you said, and I'm not sure which one he's talking about, but
hi Donna.
Hi Donna, welcome. And
Team Carl says I'm research Mediterranean. Did you catch that?
So Donna of Team Carl. Hello Donna, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I take meds with me and been over the bull a couple of times. Yes, on those sea days it can be tough for sure. I know you were on our Vista cruise most recently. You weren't over the bowl, but you were extremely queasy.
Yeah, and my problem is I think I waited too long to take medication. In the past, I know if I take it ahead of time before I feel sick, but once you cross that line into green, it's hard to come back. I'm sorry, Donna.
Yeah. So, and I mean, that all being said, that was the same day that our port got canceled.
Yes.
So it was enough for us not to get into port in Honduras. But it's also the seasickness bags. I didn't see them out on deck, but if it gets really wavy, you'll see those out.
If you've never cruised before, I would definitely, talk to pharmacist or your doctor about bringing something in case you do deal with motion sickness, because it's not nice.
No, it's not. No. It definitely isn't.
Yeah.
I find, so if you're kind of newer to cruising, for me personally, I'm usually okay unless I start reading.
Yeah, especially in the cabin.
So I've never been someone who could read in the car while I'm not while I'm driving, but as a passenger in a car, I need to sit towards the front of the vehicle with windows. And if I'm in the cabin and I start reading like a Fun Times or one of the documents, that's when I get sick. So keep that in mind. If you're an avid reader, but you can't read in the car, maybe that could be an issue for you as well. So
it's true. Actually though, when the seas are calm, I can read. It's just when it's wavy.
Yeah. I could probably go read out on deck, like on one of the upper decks where it's open and there's air, but in our cabin, no, that's when I start to feel it. All right, your next thing you have to think about when you are choosing the right cruise for you is your cabin type. Now, this comes back to a few things. This comes back to your budget, but we hear things all over the board as well about this.
And it's not just a budget thing, because I have talked to avid cruisers who spend on their cruise, and they're like, I only want an inside cabin.
Yes.
And it's not a money thing. It is they prefer the dark, quiet cabin.
The cave, the den. the dark, quiet cave den. And I actually don't mind them.
No, I don't either. Now, generally speaking, if you're not familiar with cruising, an inside cabin does not have windows.
No.
Or a balcony. So when the lights are off, it's dark.
Sometimes you will get cabins that maybe overlook the interior of the ship might have a window and they'll be classified as inside, but for the most part, there's no windows.
Correct. Yeah.
But you might have a virtual balcony, which would be considered an interior.
Yes.
Which I think we have coming up.
Yeah, which is an LED screen with
a fake balcony.
Yeah. But it's actually interesting because they live stream from outside.
Yes.
So you can see what's happening or look at the weather.
I'm really curious about our virtual balcony coming up. So that'll be on the Ovation of the Seas.
We'll see how we like that.
We'll see how we like that. Unless we get an upgrade. Fingers crossed.
I know we
bid on some upgrades, so we'll see.
But I think the ship is sold out, so I think we're a little
So we'll see on that. And then of course you've got your ocean view cabins. So a window room, we'll call it.
And some of those ocean view cabins are larger than an inside cabin. Often inside cabins are the smallest. You can find sometimes though cabins made for just one person that would even be smaller, like a studio room.
Yeah, there's definitely some of them have portholes too.
Yeah, actually.
If you want to see some cool videos, go onto YouTube. I would love for this to happen to me one day, but I want one of those front of the ship portholes that there's videos of them actually going fully under the water. And
your sister was on a ship that happened. They go under the waves, and you've always wanted to experience that after.
I let me know in the comments. Would you want to be in a room where your window is fully going under the water in a storm? That would be kind of cool to me. But I feel like a submarine.
Could make you nervous.
Yeah.
Could make you nervous.
Of course, balcony rooms or balcony staterooms. Whoa, there it is. So this is from our recent Vista ship that we were on, the Carnival Vista. And some of these rooms will be bigger and smaller. Some of them will have couches, and some will not.
I know for Carnival, what we've seen is when you get a balcony, there's a couch. But on Princess, there's not necessarily a couch.
I'm just laughing because I'm assuming that Donna would love to have a room with a porthole that goes under the water. And then Donna from Team Carl, and then Team Carl says no. So I appreciate that. So yeah, yes and no. Everybody has a different opinion on that for sure. No, I lost my train of thought.
It might be cool. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. I think it would be cool too.
We're gonna talk about the next category.
Oh, we were talking just balconies.
Yes.
Any other thoughts on the balconies?
Well, it's lovely to sit on a balcony. They, of course, generally a balcony costs you more money. The one thing though that we noticed is, for example, if you're going to Alaska, tends to be a really big price difference between an inside cabin and a balcony.
Yes.
But on, let's say, a Mexican cruise, we have found that the price can actually be pretty small. Like we ended up only paying $100 or less than $200 a person to upgrade to a balcony on a Mexican cruise.
Yeah.
Whereas to Alaska, it could be double to triple.
Kind of not sure what we're talking about. A lot of people will book a very basic cabin, and then you can, some of the cruise lines will allow you to bid, or they'll send you offers for upgrades. And you can often get a really good deal on an upgrade that way. So that's something to think about as well. If you're okay with maybe an inside cabin or an ocean view cabin, if that's what it comes to, and then you can bid on a balcony or even a suite. Those are options commonly as well.
Oh, you know what? I just remembered though, some of the cruise ships have bunk beds.
Oh, yeah.
So you might see a really good price, but that cabin may only have a bunk bed in it. So they don't call it a bunk. Well, it's not truly a bunk bed because it's Pullman like, and
some of them pull out of the wall, some of them pull out of the ceiling, and
so that crazy good deal might not be what you're looking for.
Well, so I'm just trying to think. Let me pull this up here. So this cabin here, if you're watching on one of the live streams, you can see the little couch in the bottom right hand corner that actually turned into a bed. So this cabin actually held 3 people. And if I go back to this cabin here, this is an interior on the Discovery Princess. And off to the right of the picture, you can see just the corner of the bunk. So it was a main king, I believe, on the bottom, or 2 twins, and then a bunk folded out from the walls.
From each side.
From each side. So it actually held 4 people in that cabin.
It would be a very full cabin with 4 people, though.
It would, yes.
It would be. It'd feel like you're camping a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. So, and you hit your head on the bunk ones really hard.
Yeah.
Jumping from there, though, it would be suites, and each of these categories will have multiple different categories within it. So when you say, interior, there's lots of different categories. There might be, like we mentioned, the virtual balcony interior cabin, or the same with suites. You've got different suites, and every company is going to call them different things. But typically a suite would be a little bit bigger. You might have a little bit bigger bathroom.
Might have a bathtub.
It might have a bathtub. It might have a couch. It might have a bigger suite where the main bedroom area is set off to the side, and then it's kind of got a living room area. So you might get a bigger balcony. So there's all sorts of things.
You might get a slide.
You might get
2 stories.
Yeah.
You might get a mini apartment. I think if you're booking a suite, you want to go on the cruise line's webpage, and you want to see exactly what you're getting with that suite.
I 100% agree, because
you could be just getting slightly bigger, or you could get a mini apartment. And
the price will definitely reflect that, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So on the same ship, there could be tens of thousands of dollars in difference in pricing from their top end, let's call it an apartment, to their basic suite. Yeah. So if you want a slide in your room, you are paying more extra for that. But so, and then we wanted to talk about the deck as well. The deck of the ship, your cabin, if it's on.
Yeah.
So commonly, if your cabin, I'm not going to say this in all cases, but commonly the higher up the ship you are, you'll be paying more as well for that. So that's something to keep in mind, as well as different areas on the ship. So commonly the center of the ship will be a little bit more expensive than the front or the back. As well. And not all decks, not all ships, some ships will have, cabins in one area that accommodate 3 or 4 people, and then the deck below, it might just be cabins for 2 people. So every ship's going to be different, of course, that way. And so keep that in mind. You can probably save a little money if you move lower down in the ship. Not in all cases, but
in some cases.
In some cases, for sure.
Plus, some of them have like spa cabins or exclusive area,
Havana type cabins, but for example, the Havana, this is where we say not in all cases, the Havana on, I know the Vista class ship, so the Vista, the Panorama, etc., is towards the, I want to say deck 6, 5, 6 at the aft of the ship. So it's not at the top of the ship, but those can be more expensive cabins. But then you do get your private kind of pool and hot tub area as well. So that's definitely things to think about when booking your cabin. Should we jump over into the next one?
Yeah, let's talk about the brand and ship size.
So we're not gonna today we're not gonna go into really comparing brands too much, but of course there's your standard brands, your the ones everybody knows about, your Royal Caribbean, your Carnival, your Norwegian Cruise Lines. If you're sailing out of Miami or Florida, a lot you might see MSC. They're a lot in Europe. They're quite large. It's funny when we bring up MSC. We've sailed on MSC, and we bring it up with people. A lot of people say, I've never heard of it. And it is actually one of the larger cruise lines in the world, but they're from Europe, so they're not quite as big here. But they're growing for sure. They have quite a few ships in Florida.
And they have big ships, really big ships.
So, and then you've got so those would kind of be your standard lines. Then you've got more your luxury and ultra luxury lines. And I kind of don't know how to distinguish between them a little bit but of course you've got your Celebrity and your Princess, which are Royal Caribbeans and Carnivals, kind of more, we'll call them more luxurious lines or upper class lines. But then you've got lines like Cunard and Silver Seas, and these just continue going on and on. Even a friend of ours, I don't even know how to say the name of it, works on a cruise line that is very niche, and it's doing like, it does a lot of Arctic and like Norwegian fjords, and they come over to Alaska. But those are, I want to say, under 1,000 person ships. So very specialty, high-end niche cruises.
This, in what cruise you pick, cruise line, will definitely impact the atmosphere of the cruise. When you're going, let's say Carnival, Royal Caribbean, you're going to find a lot of families.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you go Princess, still had a lot of families, but when we cruised, it had less families.
So Princess, for example, I think it would depend when you go on Princess. Well, any cruise line for that matter. But if we're always sailing, or almost always sailing during school holidays, so there's always families.
Lots of families.
We weren't sure if there would be lots of families when we did Princess to Alaska last summer, and I was surprised how many families there were.
I found though, and it could be that it was to Alaska, the itinerary, it was a lot of like family reunion type, large extended families, more not just a quick getaway type of vacation. Yeah.
I'm really jealous, Donna. The Norwegian fjords for us, that's definitely a bucket list for us.
Yes.
I need to make sure we have enough time to go visit family in Sweden and Finland when we do that, but that is definitely one of the ones that's on our list to do down the road. Probably a couple of years away at this point, but that sounds amazing. So I'm excited for you guys.
I hope you take lots of photos.
No,
that it's
sure.
Beautiful.
So there's bigger ships?
Yes.
Did I cut you off on something else?
No. And a lot of the new ships are bigger.
A lot of them are, not all of them, but a lot of them.
And
there's big and I'm totally using the wrong terms. There's big, there's ultra big, there's super ridiculous big, there's
mega
big,
massive, enormous, ginormous.
Yeah. So there's the bigger ships. Maybe let's just call them 3,000 and over, or 3,500, somewhere in that range and over. And then you've got the smaller ships, 3,000 and under, and they're still big. We were just down at Canada Place in Vancouver a few weeks ago, and they were smaller ships there, and they were huge.
We were kind of laughing because in our mind these were small, but when you actually walk alongside in Canada Place, you can walk along the ship. It's a long walk
because there was no mega ship there. I think I said to you, these ships are huge, and they were all, I think, under
under
3,000 passenger ships. So it's all perspective. And it's like if you buy a TV and you're looking, a 42-inch seems big until you put it next to a 60-inch, and then it seems small.
Until it's when that big mega ship pulls next to them in port.
Yeah.
Like in the Bahamas, and then you're like, oh, they're little.
But on the bigger ships, so when you're planning your cruise, are you looking for things like water slides, for example, water parks? So you're not going to get all of that on all the ships.
But on the bigger ships, you're definitely more likely to find these amenities.
And this comes back to, too, are you sailing with kids? So those are things to think of. You'll find things like go-karts. Norwegian has that on a few of their ships. The Norwegian Joy had it. The Bliss has it. The Encore has it. I think there might be others as well. You'll find bumper cars on some of the ships. I know Ovation has that. Flow riders, you'll find that. That's common on Royal Caribbean. High ropes courses, you'll find that's common on Carnival ships.
Those are a lot of fun.
That's one of our favorites. So, and some of this stuff you do have to pay for, and some of it is complimentary. So
a lot of it is complimentary, though. Like on Carnival, it's the roller coaster that you have to pay for, but the rope courses,
the sky ride is
those are all complimentary.
Water slides are complimentary, but you're right, roller coasters. But things like commonly flow riders will be free, but if you're doing like the skydiving and that kind of stuff, there might be free, or they might have paid opportunities as well. Depending on the time that you're doing things. So ice skating, some of the ships, we went ice skating on the Mariner of the Seas, rock climbing. And then, of course, the other thing to think about is on the bigger ships, there could be larger production shows.
I know Norwegian was really into their big shows, and some of them have since been canceled, but we saw Footloose on the Norwegian Joy.
Yes.
And I thought it was really well done, to the point that I would book or have booked that cruise for that production. So I'm not sure if they still have it, because I know they cut some of their productions, but sometimes they have specific shows that they're known for. Well,
commonly to certain areas. So for example, Alaska, you've got the Ovation and the Quantum, which I believe are sister ships doing a similar route. And then you might have the Bliss and the Encore going there. And the shows might be the decision maker between the two ships, because they're sister ships and doing similar itineraries. So those are things to think about. But on the larger ships, you can get more types of shows, but they might not be as intimate as well. So you've got different things like, what's it called? Diving, like water diving.
Oh yeah. On
Royal Caribbean, or like drone shows and things like that they offer on the larger ships that you might not see on some of the smaller ships. And then moving into the smaller ships, you might get more of an intimate experience. If you're looking for a quieter, more relaxing. This is a big one, getting around.
Yeah, those big ships, especially we stayed on, it was probably the Joy when we stayed on the bottom and we were all the way to the front. What couple cruise ships we have?
No, the Joy was more midship, I believe.
Oh, I'm thinking of when we cruised with Carnival on the Splendor.
Oh, the Splendor.
And that's not a mega ship by any means, but we were all the way at the bottom at the front of the ship. So it was a long way from the Lido deck. So if you're on a larger ship, you might want to think about being more midship if you don't want to do a lot of walking.
Yeah. And that's why, if you're spending a lot of time on the Lido deck, being close to the Lido deck is nice. But you also need to think about noise above you and noise below you as well.
Yeah.
So there's, what do we have here? Easier to get around on the smaller ships, less people. I say less people, but I feel like overall there's less people. Like there's less people on the ship, but the ship is smaller.
And I also think I don't know if this is a true term, but there's a hot tub ratio of passengers to hot tubs. And I think they're better on the small ships.
We enjoy the hot tubs on the ship. But we've been on smaller ships that have just as many,
hot tubs,
just as many hot tubs for 2,500 people as they do for 4,000 or 5,000 people.
Yeah,
for sure.
And a lot of pools. So sometimes a smaller ship can feel like more ship.
Mm-hmm.
But a little bit. One thing we didn't talk about, those there can be a little less specialty restaurants and food options. The bigger ships tend to have a lot of different places to go and try.
Yeah, no, that's true. For example, well, if we talk about Carnival, for example, just because it's our last one, so it's easy to remember all the names.
Mm-hmm.
All the special, especially at lunch, there's all the complimentary specialty restaurants. The Guy's Pig and Anchor Barbecue, the Blue Iguana Cantina, Guy's Burger Joint, the sandwich shop in the buffet, the pizzeria. Like there's a lot of compliment on top of the buffet. Whereas smaller cruise ships might only have one kind of restaurant out by the deck and the buffet.
And that could be it
for lunch. Which is still more than enough food. But those are
just not the variety that you would find.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is the smaller ships are often a little bit older ships.
It could be a little more traditional, like traditional cruising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you're looking for kind of the traditional experience, I don't want to call it the love boat experience, but like the more traditional cruising experience rather than the roller coasters and the
water
central parks and the things like that, the merry-go-rounds and everything. A smaller ship is probably what you're looking for. And then, of course, the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. That can vary a lot.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot. The atmosphere can be huge. So, Carnival is well known for putting on great parties.
They're the fun ship.
They call themselves the fun ship.
Their deck parties are amazing. They're high energy.
Mm-hmm. And you're going to find, more of that as well on like Royal Caribbean, etc. But then you move over to cruise lines like Princess or Celebrity. It's going to be a little bit calmer, maybe a little bit more sophisticated.
Our Alaska cruise on Princess, around the pool deck was pumping orchestra music. And I you know what? We were going slow and there were whales everywhere. And I felt like I was at a wedding. It was very calm and it was like the scenery was beautiful and it was a totally different feeling than a beach party in the Caribbean.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true.
It was. I enjoy both. Both are amazing. But
yeah. But if you're just looking to, I know I said I get sick reading, but if you're just looking to read a book out in a peace and quiet, Carnival is going to be louder than Princess.
You can find quiet spaces, but the general atmosphere is high energy.
Yeah. The other thing to think about is the crowd. Are you, for example, Holland America will have an older crowd, and that's kind of using Carnival, Princess, and Holland America as an example because they're all under one umbrella as a company. They're all owned by Carnival. So Holland America, then you're going to typically find an older crowd. That doesn't mean there's going to be not going to be kids on it or young adults, but you're going to find more elderly people on there. So the type of crowd you're looking for as well. And adults only cruises.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for an adults only cruises,
like
there's Virgin Cruise Lines as well. So there's all those things to think about. If you don't want kids on there, that doesn't mean it's not going to get wild.
Because you kind of go the other way. You think quiet with no kids, but then sometimes no kids means more wild. So I'm not sure.
So I do want to bring this up, and I think this kind of comes more. It's what is the formal nights like on an Alaska cruise? So,
people actually say it's less formal, but we kind of like formal night in Alaska because it's not as hot. I feel like then you're more likely to say, hey, Ken, you can wear your suit jacket and.
So we were on Princess, and I'm just trying to think the last two Alaska cruises we did, Norwegian Joy and Princess. People were definitely more dressed up on Princess. There was the odd tuxedo, but mostly suits, whereas it was a little bit more casual on Norwegian. I know you guys are going on Carnival to Alaska, so I haven't done Carnival, but I would say it's more formal in Alaska, but not a ton in the Caribbean, just because of the temperature.
But most people actually say the opposite when they go, that people are dressed in really warm clothing.
That's true.
And so they're like, they feel like, because we live in Canada and we already have like the mountains and the weather. If you're coming from somewhere hot, you're prepared for like this cold weather, and it's a lot of jeans and a lot of...
Yeah. That being said, though, I don't usually bring my full suit to the Caribbean or to Mexico. It's just too hot. It would depend on the cruise line I'm going with if they require it. But to Alaska, I usually bring my full suit.
I think like every cruise, you're going to find people that go big and some who just meet the requirements to wearing long pants to eat in the main dining room.
It's always funny. You've got people in tuxedos and ball gowns, and then you've got people in jeans and shirt. And for a lot of the cruise lines don't seem to care that much.
No.
But yeah, if you're concerned, I know you guys are avid cruisers, so I know you know this, but the forums are definitely helpful in seeing what people are wearing on the formal nights, for sure. I know you wanted to bring up loyalty as well. This is kind of one of the last things.
Some people are really loyal to their cruise line. When you stay with this, or when you book with the same cruise line over and over, you build up points, which then gives you, I don't want to say like rewards, but you may get things like free laundry, free water,
free beverages in some cases.
Sometimes you get on the ship earlier. So there is value in those point systems. For us personally, we haven't been loyal to one cruise line.
I'm actually more loyal to a new experience. I don't know if that's put right, but I'm not, I don't say this in any way to diss those who are consistent on one cruise line. I just personally like a different experience. And that's, I think I would rather have that than, and our perks aren't huge, maybe because we've done that. So I just like the experience, and I like going on different ships, and I like that. So that's also something to keep in mind though when booking your cruise.
Also, when we go and look, when can we go, and we say we want to go to this port, and we make that list, usually there's only like 2 or 3 options of cruises that work for us. So being brand loyal actually isn't top in our priority.
Yeah.
And it also, though, when you switch cruise lines and then you go back, you appreciate what that cruise line does. You don't take it for granted, because you realize not every cruise line will do that for you.
And Team Carl says they're not loyal to one cruise line either. And I think it's just, that's a good point. I think a lot of people aren't. And then it's funny though, there are a lot of people who are super loyal and will not cruise with different cruise lines. So you see both ends of the spectrum. One thing I did want to mention, and this kind of just goes back to the itinerary that we were talking about, we should mention as well the port you're sailing out of. Not only the itinerary, but where it's sailing from. So whether you're going out of Seattle or Vancouver to Alaska or LA or Houston or Miami, Port Canaveral, that's also something to think about as well. Not only just where the ship is sailing to. So,
I think it really comes down to picking your priorities. First, you have to look at the things that you can't change. For us, it's often when you can cruise. We set a budget and we look at the options there, and you have to choose what's most important to you. Are you more concerned about how many days, or are you concerned about having a suite? What kind of cabin? Or is it more about the itinerary, specific ports that you want?
Yeah.
And you have to switch all those to see, okay, what do you really want so that you are happy on your vacation?
100%.
Because the next person next over to you is going to have a different opinion.
100%.
So you got to pick what's going to make you happy.
It's your holiday. Do what you want to do. It's your money.
Absolutely.
It's your holiday.
Yeah.
And those are all things to definitely consider. Oh, interesting. Okay. So Team Carl doesn't want to sail on Disney or Virgin, and not every cruise line's for everyone. So yeah, and everyone would have different reasons. There's a few cruise lines I'm not super keen to sail on, and it is what it is. So everyone has different expectations, whether it's culture or what part of the world you're in, or all those things. So
I missed a couple comments up here. Scroll up a little from Gear.
I think that's there. Yeah. Anyway, we'll just continue on there. I guess should we wind down the show right there? Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate it today, and we hope to be back soon again with the cruising show here on Northern Viking Explorer. Again, maybe drop a comment in the comment section below where your next cruise is, and we'd love to hear about it. I know Team Carl there is Alaska, and we just want to hear about where you're headed to. So we appreciate that. I think we're going to wind it down there. We've got some yard work to do. So it's not raining right now. So we're going to go do that, and appreciate you all. Until next time, this has been the Cruising Show. Remember to subscribe. Take care and have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.